Hello everyone, this is Enchanted Life Path TV, and an hour ago, Paris stabbing 2 UK tourists among 7 injured in knife attack outside cinema. Now I've pulled this one up for obvious reasons. What we've been talking about is the build up to all this rhetoric, what's happening over in Syria, how it ties into the Novichok bullshit which we're seeing back here in the UK, and the demonising of Russia through the press, through anything. I've seen news reports on Sky over the past couple of weeks where they were actually saying people who are anti-vaccine or anti-vaccination or anything like that are also Russian, or Russian supporters. It's unbelievable. Just if you've got an opinion that's against what you're meant to have, you're seen as Russian. But where this is going is right, because it's all a little melting pot, not a little one, a big one. It's all a big melting pot, which is all a sequence of events all planned. Now, how many times have we seen something happen in Paris or something happen in France, and then lo and behold, on the back of it, a staged event, because everything that happens in France as well have also proved, in my time alone, never mind anyone else, to be completely fake. I've got videos there now where still, or even screenshots, images, all sorts of research showing that the Paris attacks in the Bataclan, they were all dummies all over the Bataclan. There's quite recent articles on my website saying that. So on the back of all of these terror attacks, now this is saying no initial indication assault is linked to terror. Okay, so I'm not saying that, but just in case they change that narrative in the next few hours, I'm making this point now as well anyway, making a few points here. What they always do after these so-called attacks in France is they go over and bomb Syria. Every single time, France have sent the battleships out, England have jumped on board, so have all the members of the UN, and everyone says, oh yeah, let's go out. And then there has been missile volleys launched at Syria by these countries who are alleging of just being attacked, terror attacked, whatever you want to call it. They're all hoaxes. The propaganda and the propaganda war machine is unbelievable when they're both in bed together. So, look at this now, incident, right? How can you say one thing is terror and one thing's not? Because straight away the news come out, they spoke to someone for once, have they? Anyway, the UK tourists are reported to be among 7 people injured in a stabbing attack in Paris. 4 of the 7, so there's 4, and 7, there's 11. Up here, you've got I'm just looking for any other numbers. Now, if anyone can remember my little article what I spoke about earlier, the opening of the season of war, opening and closing the season of war, which started on March the 24th and runs through to October time. March the 24th, which is known as the day of mourning on the attack map, which have been devising now for years. People who've been here for years will know what I'm talking about when I reference the attack map. Just all the dates that keep popping up, or little festivals that have highlighted over the time. Now, March the 24th until 9/11, which is 2 days away, when I fully suspect this is when all this little melting pot's going to have another little turn of events. I don't know whether it's going to be a big catalyst or a turn of events, another one. But the difference between the time between those 2 dates, March 24th and 9/11, is 171 days. So there's your 11 and a 7 in the same number there. So there's another 77, which is the hoax number, right? So what have we got here? 4 of the 7 were seriously hurt in the rampage which took place in the French capital's 19th. So 4 of 7 is 11. There's your 19th. There's your 9/11. See, it's all pointing towards 9/11 again. And then the next numbers in the sequence there, so we've got 1119, and then a man armed with a knife and an iron bar is said to have attacked people on the banks of the canal in the northeast city after just 11 p.m. local time. So there's your 119, and then this 11 down here gives us another 11. So there's your 9/11 coded into that again. I'll keep on referring back to the Facebook Time article what I did last week, because I know sometimes when I see things that there's seriously is something in there. And again, even the giraffe one last night, it's had like quite a bit of a mixed response. That's had quite a lot of views over on the Facebook page, but I don't think people quite know what to make of it. But again, that's where I've written all the article about the opening of the seasonal war on the day of mourning months ago on another attack in France, the Trebes attack. So, if we go from the date of the Trebes attack, which I've also spoken about, Trebes means three evils. If we speak about the Trebes attack, which was a hostage situation over in Trebes in France, and that was also on the 24th, so that was also 171 days before this year's 9/11. So there's another cause in there. Let's just see, 2 British tourists have been hurt. Police arrested 1 man, a Parisian reported, and was an Afghan national. Nothing at this stage shows signs of terrorist nature in these assaults. Can't show to differentiate. Someone has a car crash these days and they call it terror. A police spokesman said the terror attack took place near Syria. Now anyway, this is what I'm saying is, so Paris, if these two go and announce this a terror attack, you can lo and behold that the Russian and American and British forces out there in Syria will be backed up by the French ones again. More French battleships will get sent out there. France will start firing at Syria. But what we're all building up towards, clearly, when we look at my last report, where the Russian Ministry of Defence have accused the Americans and obviously the English of colluding to stage a chemical attack. So before any chemical attacks happen, they've already come out and said America are staging a gas attack in Syria, which will then be a catalyst onto more provocations, possibly war. So before that's even took place, now we're reporting on that, they're saying that. So as Matrix was saying before, down in the comments on my previous video, this is all a little line of events which we need to be documenting, counter-reporting, so then you never know whether you actually mess up their plans just by pulling the little minor details up and sort of showing things for what they are before it's news, so to say. We don't want to start all getting bombed. We don't want our countries to be staging gas attacks in Syria so we can all go to war, because the sheep will all be like, yeah, let's go to war, when we're all just like, no, you don't know what's happening, you're being manipulated, now you're begging for war, right? So if an attack happens, if a staged gas attack happens, then we're all dragged into what's the level of retaliation going to be now, this time? Is Britain and everyone going to say, oh look, Theresa May is going to be saying, look, Russia, you're in bed with Assad and Syria, you're using chemical weapons on British soil, see where it's going? And then now you're assisting Assad with chemical weapons, all the narratives, all chemical this, chemical that. Well, we're still to see any proof of any chemical weapons being used on British soil, Novichok. It's an absolute farce. The pantomime that took place on the streets of Britain, spearheaded by our government and our media. The fact that we could just be literally on the little outskirts of a war over something so blatantly comical and stupid and acted out and all done by design. It's not stupid. It's want to play it down. But it is what it is. Some figures. UK Army, British Army, British Armed Forces, in total, combined, Air Force, Army, whatever, it is 147,000. Russians are slightly bigger, of course. Russian Army numbers, on January the 1st, 2008, so that's not enough, 2 million, including a military of 1 million, 1.1 million, that was set in 2010. The Russian Armed Forces numbers 1,027,000. Active troops in the region, 2,235,000 reserves. So there you go. army. We're still all prodding them. Yeah, let me show you. US, Syria planning gas. US, Syria plans gas attack in rebel stronghold. Look, they're still saying it. More articles coming out. Syria planning poison gas attack on rebels. Now, US Senator claims Britain's MI6 is planning a fake chemical weapons attack on Syria. So now see the language is changing. Even the let's see what this is moody this. So now a US Senator saying that wag the dog. US Senator claims Britain's MI6 is planning a fake chemical weapons attack on Syria. I am just an individual who is deeply concerned about achieving peace and stopping the slaughter in the Middle East, said the politician. Fresh off sits down with Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, Virginia State Senator Richard Black turns up on Arab TV last week making an extraordinary claim about one of US closest allies. Mr. Black said Britain MI6 intelligence service was planning a chemical weapons attack on Syrian people, which it would blame on Mr. Assad. Around 4 weeks ago, we knew British intelligence was working towards a chemical attack in order to blame the Syrian government to hold Syria responsible, Mr. Black said on Al Mayadeen, an Arab news channel based in Beirut. EU won't comment on suspicion MI6 is spying on its Brexit team. Mr. Black said later that he meant the British were planning not to carry out an attack themselves, but either to direct rebels to do so or stage a phony attack, which with actors posing as victims. Mr. Black also said that some chemical attacks previously reported to have occurred in Syria with British fakes pulled off with the help from volunteer first responders known as white helmets. Oh, this is what we've said all along. All these attacks are fake. They just show you them where they're just spraying water in people's faces and what have you. It's unbelievable. He says, wag the dog. From what I can tell, they have been planning a fake attack. Not a genuine one, but one where they actually move people out of town and they have trained to portray to victims of a gas attack. So they're doing it in empty little bombs out town to get all the people back in and acting it all out. Now I've even dragged up companies in the past, Analogical as well, and I've gone and presented Analogical's finds where the company Bell and Pottinger, they're the ones actually doing all of this. They're the ones who've got a budget to go and stage all of these, making videos. Spent £1 billion on making fake videos, for God's sake, all the beheadings and everything, all staged. You don't know, a lot of people don't know what editors can actually do with a green screen. It's unbelievable, you know. Even YouTube editors can blow you away sometimes with the editing that they can do, you know, honestly. Can do a lot. Mr. Black said in an interview with the Washington Post, and the plan is to use the white helmets who have always been involved in these notorious deceptions to portray an attack. How much more from, this is exactly the type of thing, this is my language. The State Department flatly rejected Mr. Black's allegations, which echoed what it called outrageous. Russian and Assad's regime claims that Britain and the US have carried out chemical attacks with help from the White Helmets. The Syrian regime has repeatedly used chemical weapons. A State Department official who discussed the matter condition on anonymity because she was not authorised to do so publicly, said in an email, Russian and regime denials have no credibility, nor does the increasingly offensive and outrageous Russian propaganda accusing the US and UK of planning and executing CW attacks. Now, right there, if I've still got time, this is the perfect time to then go and show you something. Right. Operation Northwoods. What this was a government plan from one. See if I can get it in CIA. CIA See if I can get it from their website. Just want to show you the more CIA.gov type one. What Operation Northwoods was, right, was a plan. When the US were having a little war, Cold War with Cuba, they planned to remotely hijack an airplane full of American college students. So the American government planned to hijack a passenger plane which was full of their own students and then fly that plane into a building as a means to then have a reason to start a war with Cuba. Okay? And that's what it is. I'm just looking for something. Just looking for the Since it would seem desirable to use legitimate provocation as is the basis for US military intervention in Cuba, a cover a deception plan to include requisite preliminary actions such as has been developed in response to Task 33C. Is that a C? Could be executed as an initial effort to provoke Cuban reactions. Harassment plus deceptive actions to convince the Cubans of an imminent invasion would be emphasised. Our military posture throughout the execution of the plan will allow a rapid change from exercise to intervention if Cuban response justifies it. Right, I want to get to the quotes where they actually talk about the plane. It says it in it. Land-friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage an attack on a base. Start rumours, many use clandestine radio. A series of well-coordinated incidents will be planned to take place in and around Guantanamo to give genuine appearance of being done by hostile Cuban forces. Incidents to establish credible attack, not in chronological order. Start rumours, many use clandestine radio. Land-friendly Cubans in uniform over the fence to stage an attack on the base. Capture Cuban-friendly sabotage inside the base. Start riots near the main base gate. Friendly Cubans. It's nuts. Right, let's have a look. I want to find the quotes about the airplane. Use of MiG-type aircraft by US pilots could provide additional provocation, harassment of civil air attacks on surface, shipping and destruction of US military drone aircraft by MiG-type planes would be useful as contemporary actions. An F-86 properly painted would convince air passengers that they saw a Cuban MiG, especially if the pilot of the transport were to announce such fact. The primary drawback of this suggestion appears to be the security risk inherent in obtaining or modifying an aircraft. However, reasonable copies of the MiG could be produced from US resources in about 3 months. The terror campaign could be pointed to Cuban refugees seeking haven in the United States. We could sink a boatload of Cubans en route to Florida, real or simulated. We could foster attempts on lives of Cuban refugees in the United States, even to the extent of wounding in insistence to be widely publicised, exploiting a few plastic bombs in carefully chosen spots, the arrest of Cuban agents and the release of prepared documents substantiating Cuban involvement also would be helpful, projecting the idea of irresponsible government. Cuban-based Castro-supported filibuster could be simulated against a neighbouring Caribbean nation in the vein of the 14th of June invasion which is the Grenfell Tower date of the Dominican Republic. We know that Castro was backing subversive efforts clandestinely against Haiti, Dominican Republic, Guatemala, and Nicaragua. Nicaragua, can't say the word, sorry, at present and possible others. These efforts can be magnified and additional ones conceived for exposure. For example, advantage one can take of the sensitivity of the Dominican Air Force instructions within their national airspace. Cuban B-26 or C-46 type aircraft could make cane burning raids at night. Thought there's an explosion myself then. Raids at night with just the wind. This could be coupled up with Cuban message to the communist underground in the Dominican Republic and Cuban shipments of arms which could be found or intercepted by the beach. Now there is actually, as I said, one that says one of the plans that they've drawn up could be to actually hijack a plane. And as if what I've read so far hasn't been bad enough. The Joint Chiefs of Staff have considered the attached memorandum for the Chief of Operations Cuba project, which responds to a request of that office for the brief but precise description, pretext which could or which would provide justification for US military action. So basically, there you go. That's how these madmen work. Alright, I didn't have to go on all night for you. Could have kept the video short, but just as I said, we need this document. Not that it's worth anything, because they'll just delete all these videos and get rid of all this info anyway. Nothing stays, book burning. But at least we're trying to do something just to show you the world's getting manipulated around you, and people are shouting for wars on the back of what? Lies. This is Enchanted Life Pack. Speak soon. Thanks for watching.